So let's get on straight to the first letter. Okay, let me just read out very quickly. Dear Building Better Leaders, I lead a regional function in a multinational, and most days it feels like I'm steering a ship with multiple captains. Why? Because none of them report directly to me. My role is to align and drive strategy and operations across several local markets in APAC. While each country has its own leadership team, culture, and business goals, my mandate from headquarters is to bring consistency, efficiency, and regional impact. The challenge? Each market wants to do things their own way. Some are open, but others are very protective of their autonomy and view regional involvement as interference. At the same time, I'm under pressure from my global boss to show results fast, meaning to win new business pitches and ensure operational excellence. Now, how do I lead when I'm not the decision maker in any market, yet I'm accountable for the outcomes? How do I get buy-in, drive change, and motivate people who don't technically report to me without damaging relationships? So let me just very quickly start off. Then we can see what we can do for this letter writer.
Yeah.
I think this is a very classic regional leadership challenge. Me having worked in a multinational before, I can fully understand that. Even though I have not held on a regional position before, but I do know of a few people who has that position, and that is a very common thing. That is, they are given the kind of high responsibility, but very low direct authority on each market. Yet they have to deliver, right? So especially you're sitting in a regional position. So I think that is a very classic thing. So dear letter writer, I just want to let you know that it's quite normal. You're not the only one who's facing this. The other thing I would like to also maybe some assumption as well, that I suspect that this letter writer previously maybe held on a local position before, like let's call her she, let's she or he has held on a previous local position before, like she was probably a market leader before, and perhaps did a really great job and maybe got promoted to the regional position, and now this letter writer have to take care of different markets as well. So hence that's why the tension, right? Knowing that there's always going to be pushback from the local markets because there's always this fear of interference and so on. And I think being in that position before, perhaps this letter writer has empathy. But yet now on the other side of the table, it's like, okay, so what do I do? Now I really feel it. I've got pressure from my boss to deliver, but yet I need to, figure this group of people who doesn't report to me directly. They're all dotted line reporting to me. What do I do in this case? So that's kind of like my earlier thoughts before we actually jump into any sort of really practical advice for this letter writer. Any thoughts on your side, Nafisah, for this person?
Yeah, I think for me, when I hear this issue, the thing about two things that came to mind. Number one is of course the accountability on the outcome. I mean that comes with the job that the letter writer is actually holding, but at the same time, because there are lots of I would say the stakeholders that he or she is working with, and it's regionally there are different expectations as well, and different I would say cultural understanding of how things are going to be done, and that can also serve as a challenge for him or her in that aspect, right? So when we work with people, this also come from where I was coming from, where I work with not just students or directly reporting under me would be my staff members, but I also work with other stakeholders, the community, the different agencies, parents especially, and I don't have direct authority over them. And what is really interesting is whatever results or outcome that we are accountable for, somehow or other, all these stakeholders have they do have a certain influence and a certain expectations, and that can serve as a challenge, especially for the letter writer. So I'm understanding where he or she is coming from, the challenge of managing the different aspects of relationships that you have with the people around you. So to me, I think one of the aspects that I would think about would be the focus is more on relationship management
Okay.
rather than just the work per se. That was the first sense I got when when you read out the letter just now, that this is more than just being accountable for what the outcome that her or his direct boss is asking for, but it's a lot of managing relationships. And that comes with it, like I said, cultural understanding, expectations, and the influences of other things that come when working with people. And I think that is why, many people say, I prefer to work with machines or computers. They don't talk back and all. Because trying to, I think about, building trust, it takes time.
Yeah.
Building trust through the relationship management, it takes a longer time, which I'm not sure whether this letter writer has, because I think just being promoted and all that. So managing that itself, it's people do not know who you are and
Right.
where you are coming from as well.
Yeah.
So it's both ways. And another thing that comes to my mind is, how do you ensure credibility on your part? you know and that also comes in, like, building trust is not just about building trust in terms of managing that relationship. I can manage my own expectations, I can manage my own understanding of their background and cultural influences, but then how do I ensure that I am credible enough and able to build that trust with the people that I'm working with? So that's the first thought that comes to my mind. Yeah.
I'm just curious, because of your background, I'm wondering how do you, focus on relationship management as well as also build credibility very quickly when you were in
Mm,
your previous
yeah,
assignment.
yeah, I think that's a very good question, because when I first came in, the first year, I remember the school didn't quite have good relationship with parents. Not good, not good. I would say open relationship with parents. And the first thing I did was to build rapport with them first. And that's why I mentioned about relationship management. I think in any leadership experience, that should be number one. While we build systems, we focus on processes and structures, especially when we are in a job where we work with people, relationship management and building rapport and building trust is important. So the first time I did was I actually invest a lot of time in talking to parents. Even simple gestures for me. For example, the first thing I did for the 5 years I was the principal, I would be the first one to be at the gate to
Right.
welcome the students.
Right.
I'll be at the gate because I know that when I'm standing at the gate, I'm actually welcoming the students. Actually, it's more of safety issues, but the parents will drop off their child, and most of them would actually say hi to me,
Wow.
like, how are you? And to me, that simple gesture of just smiling and raising your hand and nodding and saying hi, that's already building rapport. And when people know, people like you when you are like them. So when they like you and you are like them, that's when trust will be built. So for me, showing, genuine interest and like understanding where they're coming from. So I have a lot of dialogue sessions with them. I have a lot of conversation with the parents. I also invite some parents over for just to have conversations to find out what actually is your concern. So if parents write in and complain, I will invite them over to my office to just have a sense of, you know, what is really not going right. So I think feedback, while some people would say, complaint is complaint. Yeah, when you peel the onion, the layers of onion, there is some feedback. And that feedback gives you a lot of idea of what's really going right and what's not going right, what is going wrong. So that was the first thing I did, is actually to develop relationships with them. to show that, I am genuinely concerned about what you are. Because I realize that when people trust your intentions, they become more receptive
Yeah.
to your ideas, and by considering that, okay, whatever insights they have are valuable, and we genuinely are interested in their concerns, then we are positioning ourselves as their trusted collaborators. And that's what I wanted. That I am not just an outsider trying to influence you, but I am your trusted collaborator. I'm your partner here. So I feel that that was the starting point for me. And oh yes, the first year and I shared with them my email. I received a lot of emails. And on the second year of my leadership, I stopped giving out my email address. I think I have enough to work on for the next 4
Your work,
years.
your
Yes.
work was cut out for you.
So when you open the door and everybody
Yeah,
just start
yeah,
coming in,
yeah.
but because of that, there were a lot of changes we could make to our systems and structure and processes, which in the past maybe the staff didn't realize that it was a problem. Yeah, so I actually valued that, and I always I was telling the staff, I said every feedback is very valuable, and the fact if people write in with their names there, it's not anonymous, means they are sincere about sharing um the feedback with you. So take that and be curious. I said instead of being upset, be curious. And I think that is important, to be curious on what more, what is it that I'm missing out. Just be curious and be kind. So that part itself, I think, is quite helpful. To me personally, I found it very helpful. Yeah.
I think yeah, I'm learning a lot from just that little bit that you share, right? I think the letter writer should, like what you say, first of all, extend his
Mm,
or her hand to the local markets, and to be able to say, oh, okay, let me listen. How do we quickly build rapport? Is kind of like listen to what are the challenges that you're going
yeah.
through. So
Yeah.
rather than coming across as I think a lot of times when if you're the local market, there's this thought about that would the mothership wants to standardize certain things. So
Mm,
rather than standardizing it, it's really about no, I'm not here to standardize, but I'm here to support you in this
yes.
case, right? Because if you win, we win as well. So I think it's about the support. So in order to show support, like you said, it's really about going out there to literally, at the gate to say hello, right? And to from there start to build that rapport, like you say, and to be not afraid of receiving feedback, because like you said, every piece of feedback, they shouldn't be upset with the feedback, but they should be curious to say, okay, these are because I think someone once told me before that feedback is good because they still care. Because if they
Yeah.
don't care, they wouldn't even give any feedback. They will just leave.
Yes.
In this case,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
it's data, right? So it's important for us then to be able to be curious about like all this data and see what we can do with it. So I think this is clearly something which the letter writer can do in this case, and
Mm.
it's not to that means to move the headspace or to move to reframe to say that I'm not here to standardize, but I'm here to support instead, right? So that is something
Mm.
which the letter writer can
Yeah.
consider.
Yeah, I agree with you on that about, coming across as I'm being supportive. And I want to add on to that. Because like you mentioned that, some things that it is very standardized. Um, some people will ask, what is it for me then? What is in for me? I mean, this may work across the board, but may not work for me. So another um one way that perhaps the letter writer could look into is actually how to leverage that influence, and framing it in such a way that whatever initiatives or whatever processes that are being shared, um, how can that resonate with um, the market's priorities, or
Mm,
you know
mm,
the um,
mm.
the different groups that you're working with, what are their priorities, and how can that initiatives or that standardized process resonate with them. So frame it in that way, in such a way that, yeah, while we all have different ways of doing things or maybe different priorities, but there are some common values or shared goals that they have. And if we are going to do some of these changes or some of these different efforts, then what are the benefits of these proposed changes that are aligned to the priorities of that particular group that he or she is working with? And I think that is also quite important, because the languaging, when you said about being supportive, so
Yeah.
I feel that sometimes the languaging also, it can come across as being directive, or are
Yeah.
we being, emphasizing collaboration in that way? Because working with people, there's always this tendency of, do I say it in a way that is quite instructive, or what words do I choose so that it indicates that I'm here with you, I'm here to support you? So that language is very, I think it's quite crucial here. Something maybe to consider, the letter writer can consider before meeting with all the different groups. Whether here I need to be more directive, or here I can be a bit more collaborative, or here I could emphasize a little bit more on, a bit of balance, to show that, I'm here supporting you, and this is your priority. I understand that. So how can we align that together? So I think that is also quite something that he or she can consider that as well. Yeah.
What I like that you said, it is to be able to customize the language as well, because like you said,
Yeah.
some
Mm.
markets need to be much more directive, and
Yeah.
some a little bit more, maybe have to manja a bit, that kind of thing.
Yes.
So so that's but it's but that starts off with the earlier uh, assumption that we have to start building rapport, right? To build that trust in order
Yeah.
for this to happen.
Yes.
Because if you go in there and then you straight away, there's no trust, there's no rapport, and straight away you just say that, hey, this is the
Mm.
directive and this is what it is. I think
Mm.
that's really what people don't want in this case, right?
Yeah.
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 So that's great. The other thing that I can also think about that which would be helpful for the letter writer is also to have this thing called systems thinking, which means
Mm.
that it is not just the his or her solo endeavor to do this thing, right? So it is also to learn how to leverage on peer influence. That means, like, because let's assume that this person is taking care of, I don't know, 10 markets. Clearly, there'll
Mm.
be some markets which are much more receptive, and then to be able to leverage on some of these markets which are so-called supportive of what's going on, and they're very collaborative in this case, and to be able to leverage on that, to be able to influence some of the markets who may not be very receptive. That is also important. I think that's something which the letter writer can consider as well, in terms of, like, not just, it's just not me. I'm not the only one who's doing all this. I can actually
Yeah.
leverage on this
Yes.
community which I'm building in this case.
Yeah. Agree. I call it your champions and collaborators, allies. Yeah. It remind me of yeah, I remembered the experience I had. When I talk about parents, right? So what you shared about actually resonates with me, in the sense that I get a few, I would say, influential individuals. So you can, for the letter writer, can identify some influential groups within the market, who actually align with your goal, and engage them as your allies. To help support whatever efforts that you are doing. So I call them my champions.
Nice.
And before I make any decision, I would usually invite them. So there's this
Yeah.
sense of shared on ownership. I
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
ask them for their input, and acknowledge their expertise, because everybody has expertise in different areas. So I
Okay.
acknowledge their expertise, seek their input, and I said, oh, you are my champion. And of course, I don't call them my allies, but I identify them as my allies. And I say, okay, my champions, and perhaps you can help us. So the first thing I would do is to influence them first, to kind of get them to buy in.
Yeah.
And then they will, if they believe so much in this initiative or in these efforts, then they would be the one who will go around to help, support that change efforts or whatever
Okay.
efforts that we are doing. So perhaps the letter writer could also identify, some, I would say, influential groups or influential individuals who are aligned, who has that same inclination or aligned with whatever that the intention or the purpose that the letter writer has, and to seek their, input, their expertise. And then we have this, what we call, like you said, we can't do it alone. So we
Yeah.
create this sense of shared ownership, in this decision-making process. Yeah.
Okay.
And based on my own experience, I would say can be quite powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, can
I
be
can
very
imagine that.
powerful.
I can
Yeah,
imagine that.
yeah,
I think the other thing, I think we've given quite a fair bit of bullet points for the letter writer to consider. I
yes,
would like to just probably close off by also saying that uh, this person also have to manage the boss as well, because the boss is, I think in the letter it says that that's under pressure, right,
yeah,
to deliver. So I think it's also learning how to buy time from the global boss as well, but
mm,
to very quickly show quick wins as well. So I think I just want to hear from you very quickly, as you take on the position of took on the position of principal. Clearly, like you said, building trust and so on takes time, but yet you're also
yeah.
going to be under pressure by the board or whoever to deliver, right? So I'm just wondering, how do you then manage up in this case?
Managing up, right?
Yeah.
I think because for me, managing the expectations of, having to build up the trust. So the trust building is not just for those you're working, on the lateral level, but also managing up to your bosses. Also need to build trust with them. Um, and building trust with them is actually, you cannot run away from outcomes.
Yeah.
You can't run away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the good thing about us is we have regular check-ins with the boss, regular meetings. I wouldn't say it is like very often once weekly or anything like that, but it's on a termly basis. So every quarterly and all, we will have a check-in with the board. But I do regular check-ins with other members of the board as well, on an individual basis, looking at things. And the thing is this, when I do meet them, while sharing the outcome, I'm also always preparing myself to share what is not working as well, and
Oh.
what would be my uh, recommendations or what I would do differently in order to manage the things or I wouldn't say problems, but I would say the challenges that come in. So that when they say, all right, what are you going to do about this? I already have ready answers. So I think what I would tell the letter writer is your outcome may not always be positive and good. You
Okay.
can't expect that, right?
Yeah.
The results will fluctuate.
Yeah.
But I think what bosses want to hear more from us is not about things are going right, but when things are not going right, how prepared are we to manage that, to address those issues, and to work through those challenges and make it different, do it differently. How differently do we want to do it? How much better do we want to do it? How willing are we to make changes and all that? I think what they are looking out is also to see, in terms of our thought processes as well. Yeah, the systems that we have,
Yeah.
and more so is the mental processes, and to walk them through that. And I think they would really appreciate that. Yeah, so for me, that was how things usually work. And I don't usually have everything roses,
Yeah. Yeah.
in tinted colored, pink color. No, whenever I see them, there will always be one or two problems,
Yeah. Yeah.
big ones, small
Yeah.
ones, and all. But there are times also when I feel that I just can't do it on my own. I do refer to them.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a few board members who I accept them as like a mentor, and
Right.
talk with them and then said, okay, this is a problem. This is what I think I'm going to do. What do you think? From your own expert knowledge area, or even your own experience, what would you recommend or advise? But I have already some answers for them,
Yeah.
and then we talk it through, and then just walk them through the whole process.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. I mean, that is exactly what accountability is all about. I think a lot of times
Yes.
young leaders they mistaken accountability, or even some senior leaders they mistaken accountability as results. In this case, that means you
Mm.
must show results.
Yeah.
That is accountability, but it is what you just said just now. It is the very definition of accountability, that you're accountable not only for the results, but also you're accountable for the how to get the results, the processes, the
Yes.
background, and so on,
Yeah.
which means there are certain times where that the results will not have results in this case, but you're
Mm.
prepared to have like options and processes in place and strategies, or rethink about certain things, and then to have discussions, and these are all part of the accountability process. And it's just not about like show me the results, if not, your head's on the chopping board.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times it is when after such discussions and so on, and yet the person still make the same mistakes again several times, I think then yes, of course there'll be
Mm.
consequences. But I think a lot of
Yeah.
times most board of directors uh, or bosses in this case, or big bosses, they are very sensible. They also understand that there are market
Yes.
conditions and so on, right? As long as you are prepared in terms of what ways that you can change to make things happen in
Mm.
this case. Okay, I
Yes.
think we've got a lot for the letter writer to consider. So let me very quickly recap. So the letter writer, what are some of the actions that the letter writer can consider? Number one is understand that it's really about building trust both below as well as also at the top. So we talk about like building trust in this case, it's really about relationship management. It's really about focus on the rapport in this case, right? And as and when you do that, it's really about asking and really listening, and do not be afraid of the feedback that you receive. Do not be upset, but be curious instead, because these are all data points to help you to craft out your work in front of you in this case. And when you do that enough, then your credibility would also improve because you're addressing
Mm.
some of this feedback, right? And when that happens, it's also very important to also speak to your market leaders to also let them know as well what are your challenges as well, to say that hey, we are not here to standardize, but we're here to support, right? So what that means is that you need to be able to customize your language to listen to what challenges they're going through. It could be some could be a bit more directive, which is what they want. Some could be much more supportive in this case. So, but it's really to be able to align, like what you said, to look at the common values, the shared goals, the shared, and try to see, okay, so these are the things that we need to achieve together, both the
Mm.
mothership as well as the local markets. And I
Mm.
just want you to be clear about that. But I also hear that on your end as well, that you have got certain challenges. Let's see what we can do with all these things. So these are all the
Mm.
conversations and so on. But without the trust which is built earlier on, without offering to say how I can help you and so on, this kind of conversations would not happen in this case, right?
Yeah.
And it takes time, like you said, and it is a conversation. It's a conversation. It's not instructional. Conversation here means to and fro a few times in this case, right? Then we also talk about leveraging on your champions and collaborators as well. Don't do this. It's
Yeah.
not a solo endeavor. This is something which the letter writer can consider, because that's also a very powerful leverage you can also consider in this case. And we also talk about lastly just now about managing the board directors. I think this is really good. What happens is that managing your boss, it's really about the regular check-ins with them. It's also really
Mm.
about building trust, right? So it's to look at them as mentors rather than like someone to report to. So when you look at them as like, hey, how can I leverage on your experience, because you are sitting on the board for a particular reason. So when you have such things, they are open to actually help you. They are
Yeah.
much more invested in the business in this case, right? And not to be afraid to say what is not working as well, but also to come up with some solutions along the way. So it's just not going there to just bring your hand and you say like, oh, I don't know, please help me, right? So, but it's to say that, okay, this is working and this is not working, and for those things which are not working, these are some of the considerations, but I would like to hear your thoughts as well. So this kind of, again, to and fro conversations build trust. That is something which how this letter writer can manage the expectation from the global boss as well.